Hi. Hi, Eric. Thanks for coming. I appreciate it.
Hey, Debbie, how are you?
Good. Do you have a presentation? Do I need to give you co-host privileges?
No, we have no presentation. We're here. Myself, Eric Mattis, who is our Queens team leader from Capital Projects, is on the line, and I believe Phil Sparaccio, our chief of operations, is on the line.
Hi, Phil. How are you? Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, Deb. How you been?
I'm good. I'm good.
So
Okay, we'll just wait for the chair to come on, Laura Shepherd or Carlos.
All right, we're here to answer any questions about Murray Playground. Eric Mattis, who is very gracious in joining, he can give some updates on the capital project, and I really appreciate Phil jumping on the call too.
Thanks.
I'll stick
We're
with
waiting
you.
for one of the chairs of the committee to come on. And then I have something else I have to do, so I will jump off, but it's recorded, and if you guys need anything, just holler.
All right, and Eric, I'll stick with you as long as I can.
Okay.
So I'm just waiting for one of the chairs. I don't see them yet. Hi, Lauren. How are you? I'm just waiting to see if Laura Shepherd or Carlos jump on.
Okay. Hi. Hi,
Oh,
Debbie.
Carlos, there you are. Hi.
I'm here.
Hi, Carlos. I'm going to give you co-host. I have somewhere else I have to be, but we have our parks people here. So I want
Okay,
to
great.
know, Eric Getz. He's on here with his team and he'll announce everything, and they're just going to give you an update. They don't have an official presentation, but they will provide an update. iPhone 10,
Okay.
have your hand raised. Who are you?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, my name is Japeth Menace, and I'm a parent in the Woodside neighborhood. And I recently did some testing of the playground equipment.
Okay, the meeting hasn't officially started yet.
Okay.
So not to cut you off, so I apologize for that, but I just wanted to let you know. It's up to the chairs to recognize you. And you're not a board member. You're just from the community coming on. So
Yes.
I will pass this meeting to Carlos. And Carlos, I guess if you want to get started is great. Is Laura coming on or no? Or you're running the meeting?
I thought Laura was joining, but I will check with her before we get started.
Okay, I'm going to give you co-host. And then when I hop off, I will give you host. Okay, I just gave you co-host.
Laura's here now too, so maybe if you can give her co-host.
I'll give her co-host too. Laura, hi Laura, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. So you have parks here. Eric Getz, he's terrific, and they're going to give you with his team. So they're going to provide an update, and then you can go from there. I will stay on for a few minutes, and then I will hop off and give you host. Okay.
Perfect. Thank you.
And if there's any updates I need to know, you'll send me an email tomorrow.
Yep.
Thank you. All right.
Perfect.
Thanks, everybody. Laura and Carlos, I hand this over to you.
All right, everyone. Welcome to the January Environment Parks and Rec Committee meeting. I guess we'll kick it off right away with the presentation from Parks.
Good evening. My name's Eric Getz. I'm the regional manager of the Parks in Queens West. I am joined tonight by our Chief of Operations, Phil Sparacchio, and our Queens Capital Projects team leader, Eric Mattis. We really don't have a formal presentation, but we're here to kind of, provide any information or updates that we can on Murray Playground.
Do you guys want us to ask questions, or are you gonna give some kind of
Well,
first,
overview?
Carlos, in the email that you gave, I think, which I appreciate the email. I think the questions are: has Parks found any temporary space? And I think the second part was more questions about the capital project itself, in terms of the timing and where we are in the process. So I can answer the question on the looking for temporaries. Hello? Yeah, someone is vibrating on the phone.
Eric, I think you're unmuted, and that's causing some echo. So thank you. Okay, go ahead, Eric. Eric
How's
Oates,
that?
go ahead. Yeah, I think it was Eric Matz who was causing
Eric
the echo.
Mattis, yeah, he's from our capital team. And it really, the update on in terms of temporary space, the local park manager, Monet Davis, gave an update that Parks, has been out looking for temporary space. And so far we have not found anything yet that would be suitable for a dog run, or that's even city property that would be appropriate for a temporary dog run. But we're open for any suggestions that Parks could look at for temporary space that's doable. So if there's any recommendations from the committee, Parks is welcome to look at them. And in terms of the capital, I'll pass it along to Eric Mattis.
All right.
okay, can you hear me okay, everyone?
Yes.
Yes? Okay, sorry. I apologize, my camera's not working. I had to log on in a very unusual way, so I apologize right off the bat about that. So currently, where we are in the process, so the good news was when we found out that there were additional areas of concern in terms of contaminated soil, we were able to find additional monies so that we can remediate all of the areas that are affected by contaminated soil in the park. So in addition to the synthetic turf field and dog run that were the original components of the contract, we are now going to be able to remediate the community garden and the open lawn areas as well, that are all the areas that are currently, fenced off to keep people out for safety purposes. So where we are in the process is that we are at the cusp of finally getting these monies registered. And once they are registered, then our consultant, who had already been quite far along actually on the design of or I should say for the design for the reconstruction of the synthetic turf field and the reconstruction of the dog run, then we will get them on board to actually restart the design process. And by that, I mean, because we've added so much additional square footage to areas that we were now going to remediate, again, being the lawn areas, the community garden area, some portions of some of the planting beds that are currently already fenced off with steel fencing. So in order to take that all into account, we have to take a much broader approach to the design. Again, there'll be a brand new community garden, and then areas will be remediated with a clean soil fill. But in order to do that, we also have to redesign the whole stormwater system because we're encompassing a lot more square footage. And by that, I mean we have to abide by the Unified Stormwater Rule, which we refer to very often as a SWIP permit, Stormwater Pollution Prevention Plan. So although our consultant was pretty far along in the design or redesign for the synthetic turf field and the dog run, we now have to really reevaluate those stormwater drainage systems to account for all of the additional square footage areas that we're going to be disturbing soils and remediating. So in a nutshell, we are at the cusp again of getting this thing registered. We're hoping that the consultant and the monies for this will be registered in February, so next month. And then we will have a year for design. So then we'd be looking at, let's say, February of 2026, we'd be complete with the design. It would go into the procurement process. Usually our procurement process is 10 to 12 months. So we're really looking at, we're looking at 2026 for completion of the design. Then it's in procurement for, let's say, another year. So we'd be looking at a 2027, more or less spring start date for construction. So I know that's why everybody was eager to find another location for the dog run. We understand that. But to get all of these additional monies registered, and it's quite a substantial amount of money we had to acquire and get registered. This is where we're currently at with our schedule.
Okay, thank you for that update. And I think I have a couple questions, but Laura, if you want to go first, please.
No. First you, and then if any other committee members have questions, we'll start there. And then if members of the public have any questions or comments on this, we'll go in that order, okay?
Okay, great. So I'll start. I guess my first clarifying question is, so you're saying that all of the remediation that needs to be done is going to happen through the capital process and through the capital project that you guys are going to be doing to reconstruct the park. Is that correct?
Correct. Yep.
Okay. And then, so I guess, my other question is there any capacity to do any kind of remediation in the meantime? Because that's a pretty long timeline for the park to be closed for. You're saying it's going to be 2 years until construction starts, and then that's not even when the construction is going to be done. So there's 3+ years potentially we're not going to have this dog run because we can't do remediation until then.
Correct. Yeah, unfortunately, when it comes to contaminated soils, we'd have to actually remove a bunch of material and then install like what we call or term like a cap, whether it's a combination of what we call like clean borrowed fill. We have to put a demarcation layer, which is almost like orange. You see that orange fencing we sometimes have around parks? We actually use that, roll it out on the ground almost like a carpet over the soil that is to remain, and then we put a cap on top of that. So in order to do that, we have to excavate the soil out, and we can't just remediate by adding additional soil on top of these existing areas because they would not be accessible to the public. I'm speaking in particular to the concern about the dog run, because the dog run is a very small area to begin with, and we really can't just come out and put 2 feet of clean fill, which is ordinarily our standard, on top of it, because then it would not be, accessible to the public. We'd almost have to build some sort of a ramp structure, which would take up probably, at least a quarter of the dog run square footage itself. So that's really why there can't be any sort of intermediate measures taken before the actual bigger capital project comes around. And that's why the borough has been out there and closed off the lawn areas, and the community garden itself for that very reason, because we can't remediate it by simply putting in clean fill over the existing grades, because we'd be, they wouldn't be accessible to the public at that point. That's really our issue. We have to remove soil first and then cap it so that these areas are essentially flush to the surrounding path system so that they're accessible to the public.
Okay, gotcha. And then my last question is just generally, like, what work are you guys doing to try to find an intermediate space to use? And I guess how can we be helpful? And I guess if there's any like other examples of where dog runs have had to be closed and you've had to find intermediate space in other parts of the city that we can kind of use as an example to kind of think of other spaces that would be helpful.
I can get you to look. I can find out the spots we have looked at. I also just want to mention there is the Gantry dog run on Vernon. And we're always open for suggestions for the community of possible temporary locations. But I really, and Chief Sparacchio, if he's on the phone still, they would have to be city property and they would almost have to be ready to go. You know, meaning we could almost open it as a dog run without much work, because then that would become almost a capital project too.
No, Eric, I'm actually still with you, and I do agree that I would really prefer to have the community and the existing users of the Murray Dog Run make some recommendations, knowing their neighborhoods, which for all of us are ever changing. You know, been in the borough 42 years, and I've seen a tremendous amount of change. How popular is the Gantry Dog Run? Is there any capacity for any additional dog owners to utilize it? Is there any vacant city-owned property in the vicinity that and I would love to look at what Monet Davis had been looking at on our behalf the last few weeks, months that she was tasked with doing this. But does the community have any locations? Do we have any former Green Thumb sites that maybe have gone vacant? I mean, we're talking about a community that has had a tremendous amount of development in the last decade. I'm sure a lot of empty space has suddenly become an apartment complex.
I mean, I don't know of any off the top of my head, but I'm sure we could think of some and send you guys some options. I mean, I know Vanessa particularly has been working a lot on this, so you know we can try to put our heads together and suggest some sites that you guys could look at.
I would be more than happy to have another discussion specific to finding a new home for it. And you know, we'll go out and look at the sites. Be happy to do that. You know, I can't see any group waiting 3 years to do anything and still being successful. You know, people are going to move on to other ideas. So
I think that's most of my questions, Laura, if you want to call on other people.
All right, sure. Fanny, I see you have a hand up.
Yes, hi. Hi, everyone. I'd like to ask about the contamination. You know, when they got COVID, there was patient one. So did anybody bother to look around to see where the contamination came from?
Eric Mattis, can you speak to the specifics of the report?
And who wrote?
Yeah, sorry.
And who was the
Yeah,
consultant?
so it's more than likely, you know, whenever we perform a capital project, we usually always do testing, and it's for multiple reasons that we do the testing. In this particular case, I had mentioned to everyone before, I'm not sure if everybody was on at the time, but we always have to abide by the Unified Stormwater Rule. Whenever we're disturbing more than 20,000 square feet of soil, we have to design a stormwater management system that takes into account trying to store as much stormwater runoff on each site that we're working on before we have to release it to the city's already overburdened combined systems or regular stormwater system. So in doing that, we do testing called infiltration testing, which allows us to see how well rainwater is going to infiltrate or be absorbed by the soils so that we can determine, how many inches of water can, essentially get through the soil and into a pipe system to be stored before it's released out to the city's storm system. In addition to that infiltration testing, we do the environmental testing and we do geotechnical testing. So the environmental testing is really at a time where we look at if there's heavy metals in the soil and whatnot. And ordinarily in many of our sites, invariably there's always a lot of historic fill materials. So here, very close by, Long Island City being near the water, the area was heavy industrial area at one time. So it could be that when soils were moved around from one area to another, used as fill materials, that's primarily the reason why we find contamination in a lot of our parks. So in this particular park, there's no like source point of the soil that we can figure out, where the pollutants may have come from. We just feel that it may have just been soil used as fill that's taken from, one part of the city and brought to this site to, as fill at one point in time. That's all we could ascertain.
I'd like to bring this to your attention. Across the way where the townhouses are, it was a brownfield cleanup. And also on the corner of 11th Street, where the metal contaminants came, was a dentist's office. Was that mentioned in your mental report?
No, again, as I had said, the only thing our report looks for, again, when we do the environmental components of the soil, we just look at what's, essentially what sort of heavy metals or any other types of organics are in the soil. We don't look for any sort of, there's no way for us to investigate, where that soil came from and how it became contaminated in the first place.
All right.
That's not something that we investigate.
Okay.
Thank you.
Last thing.
All right. Fanny,
All right,
do you have just one more question?
Just one more question. If you clean this up and it's in the groundwater, it will continue to come back in. Correct or incorrect?
What do you mean by the groundwater?
Well, 2 blocks away, there's a high school and it's in the groundwater. It was in the DEC reports. And the high school was shut down for a period of time because of vapor intrusion.
Yeah, this isn't any sort of, to my knowledge, unless you have some sort of a flume where you would have this stuff, these contaminants carried, that's not really what we're looking at. Here it's just like rainwater is going to fall on this, it'll fall through the clean layer cap and then essentially be absorbed in the soils beneath. But it's not something that we feel is hazardous. It's not going to go into a water body that, that's going to be, affect people that are living in the neighborhood.
I also, the Parks Department is responsible for making sure that the park is safe for people to use. I think the Department of Environmental Protection is probably more the right agency to address questions like that, like beyond the park. So I would maybe check in with the Department of Environmental Protection if you have more questions about groundwater just generally in the area.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, Kevin.
Yes, hi. Just a couple of background questions. How long has the space been closed off from public use? How many months at this point?
It's been since April, Eric, right?
Yep, roughly around spring, early summer, yes.
Okay. And then I believe it was Eric, you went through the design and procurement periods, but what would be the estimate for the actual construction timing?
Yeah, so the construction would be another year.
Wow. Okay. So this is really 4 years that the community is losing the use of the space. So is that correct?
Unfortunately, it's probably correct.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. I just had one other question about the suggestion for community members to look for space rather than have us walk around and guess what is public and what's not public land, could you guys mark up a plan with, say, within a 6-block area with, with respect to Murray, and show us what's available?
We could look into that. Yes, we can look into that.
Right. It seems like you guys would know more than we would in terms of what's public and not.
We can look into that. Yes.
Okay.
Eric, tomorrow you can make a request of my staff to try and go, 3/4 of a mile in every direction around Murray. Just if you give them the start point, and then whoever you reach, there are 2 or 3 people out of the 6 who are GIS trained. And if we need to ask IT to have a GIS specialist pinpoint anything, and there's also a topo unit at Borough Hall that could probably assist us. I'm not back in town, Eric, until late Monday afternoon. So if you could just talk to my staff, I'll drop them an email to help you in any way tomorrow.
10-4.
Great.
Thanks.
I think it would just help everyone. And of course, you don't know the way the residents are using the space on a daily level, but at least we would have that context. So together, probably the best solution. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, that would absolutely be helpful. Otherwise, I mean, if you can look into using any part of the space outside of Court Square Park, the LIC ramps project involves some parking lots under the Queensboro Bridge access ramps that have been transferred to the city, I believe. And the idea is to build some parks and other amenities. That could be an opportunity for a temporary dog run. But yeah, just want to open it up to anyone here who has any other questions or suggestions. Vanessa?
Thanks. I couldn't figure out how to raise my hand in Zoom. I'm so sorry, Laura. Thank you, Eric and Philip. We really appreciate hearing that you guys are trying to find us some alternative spaces, because as Kevin so rightly pointed out, waiting until 2028 is just really hard for this Court Square neighborhood. That really is our only park. And the Gantry Park is great, and it is heavily used, but it is quite a distance for folks to walk when you're all the way out here in Court Square down Jackson Avenue. So at least I know I've got a couple of my fellow community members here. I think we're certainly really committed to helping find suitable space for an alternative or interim solution. So we'll look forward to seeing the maps, and just to get a sense, maybe Parks Department, from you guys, what sort of constitutes a suitable space. What kinds of things could we be looking for? But Laura, I think we had some of the same ideas. Could we use, and quite frankly, people already informally use the lawn outside of the courthouse. Not that they're supposed to, but it is already kind of informally being used as a place for folks to exercise their dogs. That could be a strong possibility.
Well, I'm going to jump in, and Eric Mattis can back me up on this. The Court Square construction project will be starting shortly.
Yes.
So that area will be closed off once they start construction.
Okay. Oh, I didn't realize there was going to be a project there too. So that whole front area where that fountain is will all be closed off?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So I think there must be other spaces that we'll be able to use. I know that I think I'll hand it over to my my friend Nancy over there. I know she has some ideas too. But I wanted to thank the Parks Department. We appreciate you coming on and giving us the update and being willing to work with us. 2028
Absolutely.
is a long time. Thank
No,
you.
absolutely. We're here to work with the community.
All right, fantastic. Nancy.
Hi, my name is Nancy Bach. I've been using Murray Dog Park since 2018. And I guess I had one suggestion and one question about the plans that I've heard. And again, thank you for coming tonight to give us a chance to speak with you directly. I guess one curiosity I have, it is a precedent in the city for there to be like special times where you have like off leash in other parks. And so I guess a question I have is, right in Murray Park, there is a soccer field. Could we have some early morning hours and late evening hours where that park is reserved, where the field is reserved for an open leash dog use? Is my suggestion of a space. Especially in the mornings before work, it is hard to make that walk the whole way to Gantry. And so that could be a possibility that I suggest. And then a question I have about the timeline that I heard. One of the reasons that Murray Park dog park has always been really my favorite dog park to be at is that it is pretty simplistic and it is pretty earthy. And so I guess I'm trying to make sense of why it would take a year to design a dog park. Like we like open space. We do have some questions about the turf. That's one of the things that actually I believe when I was there, when we were giving suggestions, was something that we are worried about because of the smell and other things. And so, you know, I think I can, in speaking for members of my community, we like it being open and simplistic. And so I'm just curious why you need a year to design it.
So yeah, so Nancy, I can tell you the reason why is because right now it's a much larger project. So it's not just the dog run, right? We're actually encompassing quite a substantial part of the park, right? So it's a synthetic turf field, the dog run. Anywhere that you see open lawn, there's 2 open lawn panels on either side of the public restroom building. There's the circular lawn area that you know about. Then there's a sum of the planting beds themselves that already have like little steel fencing around them. Those need to be remediated in addition to naturally the large community garden. So in order to make that all happen, because it's all tied together, I had mentioned before about the stormwater system. So it all has to be coordinated. So the drainage for all of those areas is all interconnected. So if it were just the dog run, I would hope we could get it done for you sooner than that. So I know it's very frustrating to hear this, but it's also a lot of approvals that we need to get because it is now a remediation project. It's really not just a dog run reconstruction as we had hoped it was originally going to be. We have to get approvals from DEP for the stormwater management system, in addition to the fact that we now have to work with them. The stormwater systems are much more complicated when you have issues with contaminated soil, because oftentimes you have to design a different type of system. You know, there's like enclosed systems that are detention tanks that are below the ground. There's other systems that we prefer to do that are above ground, you know, bioswales, rain gardens, in combination with pipes, larger pipes underground. So it's a combination of all of those things. And unfortunately, that's why it's going to take a year, because it takes our engineers. We have a consulting firm working on this. They're a wonderful firm. As I said before, they were very close to getting completed with the designs for the synthetic turf field and the dog run until we really received those testing results. And then we obviously were in the situation we're at right now. So that's really the reason why. It's because it's all interconnected, and it has to be because of this law, you know, known as the Unified Stormwater Rule, and the fact that we want to, again, make sure that we're keeping as much stormwater on site before we release it out into the city's storm sewer system.
All right, thank you. Okay, Ben?
Yeah, thanks. I just want to echo Vanessa and Nancy and say, first of all, like, we really appreciate the attention that this is getting, and like your willingness to work with us and work on an interim solution is noticed and like very much appreciated. So thank you to everybody, first of all, for that. And then second of all, I just want to say, like, also appreciate the sort of explanation of what's going on process wise, and like the transparency about sort of where the long timelines are coming from is also a thing that it's helpful to have. It's definitely frustrating, but it's helpful to have that transparency. So I appreciate that. I also just want to say real quick, I very much appreciate like your willingness to share the map of the city owned spaces that might be candidates. And I think that the thing about being a dog owner is that we're out and about on our feet constantly. And so we will very quickly like scout the spaces that the map identifies and start to figure out like what might work. And I think the last thing that I just sort of want to say is like, I think the thing that's probably like, there's probably two things, but the most germane thing about Murray that is really missed right now is that it was such a simple space. And I think like you can observe dogs there versus dogs at some of the other parks, and they're just like, they're so much more themselves when they're like running around in dirt as opposed to like on concrete or gravel or any of that. And it's just like, you know, what I want to reemphasize to the department and to the board is that like our requirements are actually incredibly simple. Like we literally just want a patch of dirt. And so I hope that that helps from a cost perspective ultimately. And yeah, really looking forward to reviewing the map and hopefully finding an interim solution. So thanks all so much for your time.
I'm going to jump in. I feel the pain as a former dog owner, so I get that. I've had several dogs in my lifetime, so I totally understand where you're coming from.
Thank you.
I'm so sorry, Laura. Could I ask just one more very quick question?
Sure.
To Eric and Eric. I think a number of the folks here all participated in the community input meeting for the design of the park back in 2023. And I understand that the latest plans, and I don't know how final they are, and especially now that, as Eric mentioned, they have to redesign the whole thing to incorporate all the new soil remediated areas. Is there any room for us to adjust from what I understand is in the current design, which is to have a turf surface for the dog run? And I think Nancy mentioned this. The community was really not wanting the artificial turf in the dog run because the smell can just be really oppressive. And based on the other turf parks I've been to across the city, it is going to impact the other parts of Murray, like the children's playground swings that are right next to that dog run. And so my question is just simply, is there a way for us to change, and is there space and time for us to change from the turf to a different surface?
I will tell you that the turf will make it easier for us to consider it as a cap. It really requires us to bring less material. As I was mentioning before, we bring in 2 feet of soil, right? So when we're doing a cap, like the synthetic turf field example, right? If this dog run were the synthetic turf, the actual carpet plus the stone base and minimal amount of other soil really serves as quite a substantial cap. It's almost like pavement, even though it drains much, much better than pavement. So that's why, you know, I think, and we haven't heard too much, but I understand now you're saying you don't like the smell becomes an issue. We haven't heard that too much from other communities where this has been installed, the synthetic turf. I don't think we have too many examples in Queens, but I know I've done work in Brooklyn, and there are quite a few synthetic turf runs there that we have not heard that is quite such an issue. You know, the other materials we would use for something like this would be, well, some simple pavement, like concrete pavement. We're doing in another park, which is versus something like an asphalt pavement because it just stays cooler. You know, the concrete, we put in a lighter colored concrete. And that obviously serves as quite a rigid cap as well. Or, you know, it would be like a stone material. It's really difficult, and, you know, we'd rely on the dog run group to continually maintain any sort of wood chips. We don't really do, once we're reconstructing a dog park, we don't ordinarily use wood chips. It's either going to be paved synthetic turf. In some cases, we've also done that finer rounded stone material in a lighter color as well. It's just that the wood chips migrate quite substantially. And as you can see, and I've mentioned this before, but that's why it's so difficult to just come out there and put a cap. You know, I know that that's what everybody had requested. And believe me, many constituents have contacted to us over the past several months and said, you know, why can't we just cap it? And you can see there's quite a bit of a mound over it already from all of the wood chips that have been placed over it time and time again. Then they get ground in, pressed into the soil, and you've got to add more. That's why there's also that silt fence surrounding it, because they keep spilling over. It becomes quite a big maintenance feat. And again, the dog run user group would naturally be responsible for that. And then it's such a heavily used park that has so many different uses within it. It's difficult to then isolate a space where you could have, let's say, a pile of wood chip mulch that you could continually take from to fill in holes or divots or do any of that sort of thing. So really, and again, we feel we've just had more success in like in a gravel, in a pavement, or the synthetic turf. Is really, the synthetic turf has been our preferred method more recently, but there are dog runs that we're currently working on that we are also, you know, including paving. You know, we just did one in asphalt pavement that was in a heavily shaded area that's very successful at Noonan Playground. We're going to be working on one in Lula Park that's actually going to be, I think that user group really prefers concrete, so that'll be a concrete dog run. Right now it's asphalt that has a color seal coating on it, but the color seal coating is just not, very, it breaks up quite easily with the dog urine and other, you know, the fecal matter and whatever. Over time, it just breaks up. In addition to the fact that once you rinse it off, it's just like a paint, and paint breaks down the more you use water, and, you know, you have urine issues on it. So in any event, sorry, that was a lot, but those are really our recommendations.
Okay, thank you. All right, I think we've covered this agenda item. Any other questions or concerns? All right, Parks, I'd like to encourage you to stay on for the next item, since it's a kind of an exciting update for our community. So I see a couple of people from the Little Manila Park Initiative on the other end of CB2. So Dory, you're the one to give the update?
I am Laura.
Or Noel. Yeah, okay.
Thank you. Yes, we have photos, or if I could be elevated to be a co-host, I could share some photos.
Absolutely.
Of the development.
Just made you co-host.
Okay, all right. So let me see how to share. All right. Okay. So can everyone see this? So recently we have been through CB2's gargantuan and outstanding recommendation to the elected officials as well as the community, and we are very thankful for Laura and your team for giving us that recommendation letter. This project is called the Little Manila Park Project. It is converting a an abandoned piece of property owned by the New York State DOT in Woodside, 70th Street, corner 41st Avenue. So the site is about 11,000 square feet. It has been abandoned for the last 40 years, and as you can see, it is fenced, so it is secure. But this is how the community was like 2-3 weeks ago. But there's been a lot of action. Julie Won has supported us also in this project. Let me see how I can move to the next slide. Okay, so this, we were about to enter the park, but the key that was given to us after the permit was approved, mind you, we were working on this for about 4 years. And yeah, getting the key and the permit last December was such a tremendous feat for us. It was a very jubilant celebration. So this is the view looking towards the park. As you can see, there's a lot of mature trees, and there's a lot of rubbish inside the park and accumulation of leaves and branches for the last 30 or so years. So it hasn't really been maintained. This is a shot of the interior. So there are shrubs, there are offshoots. We have worked with licensed arborists who identified each tree. We plotted it out, and they were able to analyze if the tree is to be removed because it is either unhealthy or it is of a very invasive species, or if the tree is healthy, which needs to be pruned. So this is another portion of the inside, and we are heavily working with the Woodside Neighborhood Association to clear and help improve this lot. So another shot of a pile that we hope to work with sanitation to dispose of them in due time. This is a recent picture of our clearing just the entrance, so that during our photo op and clearing on February 1st with the elected officials that we invited, they will be able to see firsthand the condition of the park and the potential it has. So behind us is the BQE wall. This lot used to be 4 residential lots. So that's good. After listening to your conversations or the meeting, this was purely residential, so there should not be any source of contaminants in the area. So another shot of the inside, which is partially cleared. So we just cleared the branches and the shootlings that are emanated from the ground. So this is our planned cleanup, which was postponed. We were supposed to clean up on MLK Day, but due to the weather, we had to cancel and reschedule for February 1st. So this is again a recent shot, a before and after shot of Council Member Julie Won, doing the phone calls to DDC to remove the construction debris that was there for about 2 to 3 years. So as you can see on the right photo, it is clear for additional parking, and it just gives a different feel to the neighborhood. So this is like a conceptual view of the park. We are allowed to put non-structural elements like benches, gazebos, and tables, and we want to be as open to the community, as diverse as possible, of all races and age levels, because this section of Woodside is really a very diverse section. But this district is called Little Manila because we have a street, or the avenue portion of Roosevelt Avenue has been renamed Little Manila Avenue, thus Little Manila Park. So this is the actual aluminum sign that we hope to put up someday when the park is open to the public. So we just put this just to just as a inspiration, and that is like another rendering of the sign in place. So we are also doing fundraising right now to be able to clear the area, buy equipment, repair install a new gate. We will convert two of those fence panels to be a swing-in gate to allow in emergency and service vehicles. We have a fundraising on February 15th, just to get funds again for the park, for the site clearing and the professional tree pruning and removal. And yes, that is my presentation. And thank you again, everyone, for your time and the support that you could give us. I just have a question. Does the city parks assist in tree or landscaping, for example, tree removal and pruning for state-owned property?
No, we don't.
Oh, okay. All right. So that has to be sourced through, privately through ours. Even if, so if we get, grants from city council, it would not, parks would not be involved.
Right now, it's state DOT property. So you would have to work with state DOT with what their protocol is. If there are trees on the outside of the fence, those would be city trees, and we would be responsible for those trees.
Understood. Yes, we have been, of course, the state, we have been working with DOT. They have their own planning and engineering office, and there are permits that we have to abide with. Thank you for that, brief but direct answer.
No problem.
Noel,
And good luck.
Thank you.
Noel, thank you so much for the updates. Really appreciate it, and hope to join you on February 1st. Unfortunate weather last weekend.
Yes.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Yeah. All right. Does anyone have any questions or comments before we move on to old and new business? All right. Thank you so much. And Noel, if you could just send the presentation to me and to qno2@cb.nyc.gov, that would be fantastic.
Will do. Thank you, Laura.
Of course. All right. Thanks so much. Also, before we move forward, is anyone here for general public comments? All right. Is that Japheth?
Yeah, Japheth, yes.
Okay, sorry.
I wanted to talk a little bit about Windmiller Park. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thanks. It's nice to come to the meeting. It's my first time coming to this meeting, and it's cool to hear. It's cool to hear about all the different projects and things that are coming along in Queens. I'll have to go check them out. I appreciate your time and letting me talk. I wanted to talk about something that I feel like is pretty urgent and a hazard right now. That's in Windmiller Park in Woodside. In October, I'm a parent and my child goes to that park, and my child's daycare also goes to Windmiller Park too. So that's, over 100 students that are part of a school called High Five Academy that's near the park. And they're not going there right now. Obviously, it's way too cold, but ordinarily throughout the week, they go every day. And in October, I took it upon myself to test for lead in the park. And along the southern gate, where the infant swings are, I found a large amounts of exposed lead there with my home lead testing kit. And that was in October, so I contacted the Parks District, and it took several months, and I emailed a bunch of times. I didn't really hear much back until recently, and the Parks District emailed me back. It was Monet who wrote back saying that they didn't find significant levels of lead in the park, so they weren't going to do anything about it. I since then brought somebody who's the owner of the lead testing kit that I used to test for lead to the park. He was interested in this, so he came and he brought his XRF gun, which is a professional lead testing device. It costs like $30,000. It's not really like a pedestrian thing. He came and he actually found lead on the structure, the frame that the infant swings are on themselves has lead paint. And I tried to ask the Parks District to clarify what their threshold was for what would be deemed a hazard and what wouldn't be. So there's a couple of things that tells me. That New York City banned lead paint in 1960. So these elements that are there, especially the swing frame structure that holds the infant swings. These are like the little swings that hold like the little tiny children that are highly, susceptible to lead poisoning. That structure itself, that frame structure in Windmiller Park has lead paint on it. And also the gate that's behind the infant swings has lead paint on it. So these are the areas of the park, not only where children are playing, but the very smallest of our children are playing. So I feel like it's something that needs to be dealt with immediately, because it's going to start to get warmer and more kids are going to go there. I'm sure kids are going there every single day. And according to the CDC, the acceptable level of lead for children is 0. It's not a little bit, it's not this or that, it's 0. So I just feel like this is an urgent matter. I'm not sure what else I can do. I did contact Julie Wan's office. They seem supportive, but I haven't really gotten clarification from the Parks District as to why this is sort of, allowed to persist. And I feel like they should remove this equipment as soon as possible.
All right. Well, what I can say is the Chief of Operations of the borough, we're very appreciative of the fact that you raised the concern. I was part of a conversation yesterday where our environmental unit was consulting with the Department of Health, and I would be extremely grateful if you could make yourself available in the next 2 weeks
For sure.
to meet with us, with our environmental unit, with some of our operations team, and representatives from the Department of Health to clarify exactly what your tests indicated and what appropriate thresholds are. There's a variety of different formulas that the Department of Health uses. It's very different thresholds for, a fence or a structure in a public park where a child's not going to be exposed to that, 365 days out of the year, 24 hours a day, where if you had a toy in the home, the child has access to it constantly versus occasional visits. And they can best explain the variety of thresholds. And at that point, you'll hear it right from those who we feel are the experts within the city for health for everyone. And at that point, we'll follow their recommendations on proper remediation.
Yeah, I will also say that we went by Noonan Park and tested Noonan Park, especially in the children's area, and there was no lead in Noonan Park. So it is possible to have equipment there that doesn't contain.
Across the city, parks, playgrounds, everything was constructed in different eras.
Yeah.
So, Eric Getz may actually be able to consciously think of the age of that stuff. It's actually as a certified play equipment inspector for decades now. He's one of the first in the agency, is aware of those standards and when things were constructed. And we do, I want to say again, we appreciate you raising it. We apologize for delays in various entities having to look at it. And, government is one big bureaucracy on every level.
Yeah.
I will make sure that we reach out to you. I just, unfortunately, I'm taking this call out of state right now because I knew the importance of things, and we expected to have this conversation tonight. And I'm not back in town, and I'm really overbooked with pre-existing meetings next week. But the following week, I will make time for us to get the right group of people together with you.
Okay.
And bring all of the information you did from your home test, which I'm sure is similar to something you purchased in Home Depot, and the manufacturer of the testing material, whatever information he had. And we'll just make sure we're looking at, I want to look at apples, and we don't want to look at apples and oranges. And there, it's a little bit of an education I got from the reps from health in our environmental unit yesterday. There are different tests depending on what we're testing. And we can't hold a standard to a child's toy to something in a public park. So we'll
But
make sure we're following
I
the
feel
right-
like I feel like something that's like intended for infants in the park that they do come in contact with on a daily basis should be held to the same standards as a toy, because it essentially is an outdoor toy. And
And-
as I said, to reiterate, the CDC states that there's no acceptable level of lead for children.
All right,
And also it's possible to have a park that is lead free, like Noonan Park. But that's not the park where, Winmore, as I said, this is where daycare takes hundreds of kids every single day.
Yep, no, we'll happy to schedule 2 hours on site to review this.
Yeah. I understand, is the park being redeveloped at some point soon?
Eric, do we have anything? I unfortunately don't have access to all the things I would if I was in my office. Do we have any future plans here?
Actually, yes, I believe the playground and the pool area are under design now.
All right, so that would push us, see if I get it right, Eric Mattis, a year of procurement, a year of design, and then construction in the third year?
I think some of that's already underway. We've had discussions about this.
Correct.
Yeah, my concern is that the redevelopment is just sort of an excuse to kind of kick the can down the road until that happens. And in the meantime, that's several years of children be exposed to lead potentially.
Oh, let's see what the health department recommends after our visit. If they recommend some immediate course of action, we'll, I think you got an example tonight on other issues that there is a desire to do the right thing.
Right, of course, yeah. So Philip, how do I follow up on this? On this meeting?
Eric Getz, you have all of the contact information?
If I don't have it personally, I will find it, but we have it around, yes.
Okay,
All of
Eric, I
the-
think I have your email.
Exchange email addresses in the chat.
Okay. Thank you for.
All right, and if Board Two's Environmental Committee would like to have a representative at that meeting, I would be very happy to have someone join us from the community board.
Absolutely. Just keep the board office looped in, and you can CC me and Carlos as well.
All right, I told Debbie I would reach out. We haven't seen each other since last year's budget consultation, so she wants to catch up.
Cool. Eric Getz, I have your email with this, so thank you and Philip, also thank you for letting me speak today. I appreciate it.
No, my pleasure.
Okay, awesome. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. All right, so just to reiterate, we're on general public comment right now. So moving right along, EJ. Your hand.
Hello. Hey. All right. I don't know if you can hear me. I have a question about, and you brought in some of the names of these parks, Noonan Park and Windmiller Park, and then the park in LIC where the dog run is. So I am a cardiac arrest survivor. I was rescued with bystander CPR in 2016, which was followed by professional rescue from FDNY. And it was a total of almost 90 minutes of CPR. So now I'm coming up on 9 years. And in survivor community, there's a common thread where people want to do some type of advocacy, which is education of teaching CPR. And then the second part, or another part, is placing AED machines in public places where people can reach them faster than if someone needs a rescue. It's an accessible machine that's quicker than waiting on a 911 call for a bystander to step in. Part of the advocacy of this long network of survivors is that there's a lot of donated money to raise funds to donate AED equipment, which could include just a simple AED machine, which is about a $1,200 to $1,700 device, which the next part would be like a housing for that. one of the locations that we would like to do, that I would like to do personally, is place, just initially, some of these machines in the parks that I know on my route, which includes Windmiller Park, Noonan Playground, which is the Lula Dottie Noonan Playground, and then there's the Rainbow Park in the other side of Sunnyside. There's LIC parks. But listening to the dog run conversation earlier, there's an aspect of all these parks, the dog runs always seem to have more people that are always there kind of status. So I just as an initial introduction on how to do this, is there any way to link the donated part of a device to be implemented into a city park? How can that be done? Is it possible? Is it legal to have it done? Is there logistic possibility to do it? And then with the idea of specifically like Lula Dottie Park, there's a city bike kiosk there, which has 24-hour monitoring of some sort. The dog run has probably, at least 20 hours of activity. Just as an idea, I'm presenting this to you, how would New York City parks receive that as a project, especially if it was donated equipment to be brought into and installed in city parks? Is that a feasible idea?
Well, go ahead, Phil. Go ahead, Chief.
No, go, Eric. I'll back you up. You can back me up. So go.
I think we're all. I mean, we do. I believe we do ask our baseball and softball leagues, the youth leagues, to have AED machines, and all our recreation centers actually have AED machines. I've not heard of anything inside a park. I think it's something that we can look into and try to find out if it's feasible. And I can get back to the committee on that.
Great.
Yep. And what I recommend is if you can send Eric a proposal or any information regarding the donation program, and then I will take it up one rung for me as our Deputy Commissioner for Operations citywide. So this sounds like it could be a very interesting citywide initiative.
Yeah.
I believe next Tuesday I have a citywide chiefs meeting, and I'll ask my 4 counterparts if any of them have anything similar to what you're discussing in their borough. And we'll certainly take the information to all the right people in the agency.
Thank you. I have brought this up with people like Laura Kavanaugh. I have gone to FDNY events. I've talked to at Lula Dottie Park in particular. Every candidate for the past 20 years that I've lived in Sunnyside has campaigned, and everybody receives it as such a possible idea. So I appreciate that.
No,
I got a little bit of a war story in that I was at a seminar in West Virginia, and one of the teachers actually had a heart attack during the class, and it was with park professionals. So there were 1 or 2 of us that knew CPR, but what came out of it is we bought the resort where we had the training. We all chipped in for an AED machine. So I understand where you're coming from.
Awesome. Great.
And considering the AED machine in the building where my office is right outside my office door, and having survived 2 heart attacks and having 4 stints, having AED machines in as many places as possible, it's just a smart move.
I love to hear that. Thank you. That's great to hear you.
So if you could send us a proposal,
okay,
that would be great. But we'll start kicking the can around a little bit to see if other boroughs are doing it or if someone has approached them also.
Yeah,
awesome.
I mean, Eric, keep in mind, I think 4:30 next Wednesday, I have a check-in with Deputy Commissioner Folk.
You
And
got it.
it's already penciled in on my agenda for that conversation next week.
Gotcha.
Thank you so much, EJ. So glad you're with us. Glad to, and thank you, Philip and Eric, for the responses and positive reception.
What are we here for?
Yeah. This is something also Laura and the Health and Human Services Committee can look into the locations of public AED machines in Community Board 2 and share resources on any potential trainings. All right, Christine?
Hi, I'm Christine Coulomb. I'm president of the Friends of Noonan Park Dog Run. And I wanted to thank the Parks Department for our very, very beautiful dog run. People absolutely love it. The dogs love it. They're dragging their owners to the dog park. I'm working now with Julie Wan's office and with a representative from Partnerships for Parks to help us deal with an issue that we're having with unaccompanied children coming from the children's playground, which is right next to the dog run. And the thing is, the dog run has two beautiful water fountains that are tall and allows people to fill their water bottles. And there's nothing like that anywhere else in Noonan Park. So we have children, we have basketball players, we have people coming into the dog run to fill their water bottles. And especially with the children, they don't understand the concept of only one gate open at a time. So we're concerned about dogs possibly getting loose. And also unaccompanied children tend to run around, the dogs chase them. It's not a safe situation. So what I'm asking for is, can a water fountain be put in the children's area so they're not tempted to come into the dog run?
Eric, can you check and find me a water fountain? And I will check inventory, and if I have a bottle filler in inventory in the spring, I'll try and convert it. I will have to check if I have one or two available that were originally purchased as potential replacements for units that are in the field and become defective.
Okay, so where we would go on this is if we would take an existing drinking fountain and try, if we have the material, converting it into a bottle filler. That's what we're talking about.
Yeah, we did that up in McNeil Park when the actually the preservation group that you're familiar with from our Community Board 7 days wanted a bottle filler, and they purchased it, and we retrofitted it to replace the standard drinking fountain.
There is a water fountain. I'm not sure if it's working now, but all the plumbing is there, right between the children's area and the basketball court. It would be ideal if.
Our records will indicate if it works. Right now, all our drinking fountains are deactivated so they don't freeze in this extreme cold weather.
Right.
All right. Yeah. Thank you.
Well, we would really appreciate you looking into it.
We shall.
Because it's a huge problem for us. Huge problem.
No, it makes sense.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just feel bad that I've given Eric a lot of homework to do, considering he's actually doing this call tonight on his own time because he's been out sick this week. And still agreed to join us tonight. So he's getting a lot of homework.
Yeah, we definitely thank you for your time tonight and for being so receptive to community comments and concerns.
Phil and I have been doing this a very long time. Between the two of us, we probably have 75 years with parks, so.
Probably
You know.
close to 80. I've got.
Not there, not there yet, chief.
I'm
Right.
at 43 years, and you're only a few years behind me.
37.
Amazing.
We 43 and 37. We hit the 80. Couple of St. John's graduates.
Yep.
All right, fantastic. Before you hop, do you have time for one more question or public comment? Jolie, you're up.
Thanks so much. It's actually not a parks question. It's more of an environmental question. So if these guys don't want to listen to my speech, it's totally fine. I can
I'm
wait.
happy to listen. I've only got about 3 bars of juice left on the device, and I don't have a charger upstairs with me.
Right. That's
I got-
excellent. I'm Queens native, so I'm used to talking fast. My issue is about helicopter traffic over Sunnyside, and I raised this at the recent community board meeting. So my issue is that this is a quality of life issue and it's a health and safety issue. It's also an environmental justice issue. So the neighborhood has recently become attractive for non-essential helicopters, and I'm not sure why or what their purpose is. Haven't been able to get any answers from either the EDC or the FAA. And the biggest issue is that these helicopters are flying over Sunnyside and circling over Sunnyside at all hours of the day and night, weekends, weekdays, holidays. And they're flying really low over residential communities. They're circling. And this constant noise and air pollution is negatively affecting the residents' health and well-being. Helicopter noise at the upper limits of the permitted flying altitude of 2,000 feet is at least 17 dB over what the EPA recommends, which is exposure in the general population of 70 dB in a 24-hour period, general ambient environmental noise. The other issue is that the common fuel that's used for helicopters is aviation gasoline, which contains 3 times the amount of lead that was used in leaded gasoline in automobiles. And the adverse effects, as we heard from other members, of lead, both on adults and on children, is well documented. And so I am kind of reaching out to all the city agencies that I possibly can to see if there's any way that I can get some help to A, figure out what these helicopters are doing here, and B, if there are agencies that I should be reaching out to, because the fact that New York City airspace is uncontrolled below 2,000 feet, which is where the radar cutoff for air traffic control, is unconscionable because they control drones and small aircraft and other rotorcraft, but not helicopters. So thank you so much for listening, and thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Yeah, thanks. If anyone from Parks wants to comment, though, understand that that's not specifically a Parks matter.
The only personal advice I'll give, just based on a lot of years of working for city government in a couple of different roles, reach out to the police department. That there's, unusual helicopter traffic in the area. It may become a curiosity for their aviation division to just look at flight path patterns and what's going on. You never know if there's some nefarious criminal activity or just suspicious invasion of privacy. And that's just, as a fellow Queens resident, I throw out that you never know. You can reach out to your board too. So reach out to the 108, ask to talk to their administrative lieutenant and bring it to their attention. And I'm sure the board's got, connection to the precinct CO to have the board make it a curiosity for them as well.
All right, thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right, I'm down to 1 bar, so you guys are going to lose me.
All right. Have a great night, and thank you so much for coming. All right.
Eric and Eric, I thank you. I appreciate both of you taking the time tonight. And Eric Mattis, I will reach out to your leadership and thank them in the morning because they've all certainly gone home.
Thanks. I
Thank
already
you.
let them know.
Thank you guys so much for coming. Really appreciate it.
All right.
I have one question.
All right.
I have something to notify the chairs. How do I do that?
Is this a general environment, parks, or recreation related matter?
It's a matter that you should be notified. It's something that I found out.
All right. In that case, Fanny, do you mind just sending an email?
To you, and then you could loop
Right.
everybody in.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Laura, Eric, and Eric are gonna dial off at this point.
All right. Thank you so much for coming. Have a great
Thank
night.
you, and we'll follow up and we'll talk.
Good night.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right. JPEP, do you have another question?
Oh,
or
just
is the-
really quick, circling back, no pun intended. Jolie, are you familiar with an organization called Stop the Chop in New York and New
Indeed, I
Jersey?
am.
Okay,
Thanks.
just
I-
wanted to make sure because I know that it is sort of parks related. I found for me, when I would visit Central Park, it was a big problem in Central Park too this past year of a lot of helicopter noise above Central Park, and it just really kind of ruined it for a lot of people I know. So I appreciate you bringing it up here too because it's something that I've been concerned about as well. That's it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. All right, Lauren.
Hi, sorry, this question is directed towards Fanny in reference to what you just asked. Are you asking about getting in contact with the chairs of this particular committee, or did you talking about the chairs of all of the committees? Is Fanny still on?
No, I think she dropped
Okay.
off.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah, I wasn't clear on what she was
We'll
asking.
add
Sorry.
you if it's relevant.
Okay.
Lauren.
No, I wasn't. Yeah, I wasn't sure what you meant. Okay. Thank you.
All right. Yeah. So, do we have any old business that we need to circle back to? Don't think so at the moment. All right. And then based on the items we discussed tonight and any comments and concerns, do we want to make any motions to send any letters or put in any requests?
I think we're waiting for things, basically. Follow-ups
Yeah.
from everything, right?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I think mostly we had a pretty productive dialogue on Murray Playground, and I think the request for alternative spaces is heard loud and clear. And Parks said that they would get back to us with a map of publicly owned sites. The Little Manila park cleanup and sign installation is rescheduled for February 2nd. I think yeah, they're going to
February
follow up on the yes, February 1st. Parks is going to follow up on the lead testing. We should just note to follow up on that next month. And the request for AEDs, I think, was well taken. No need to send an additional letter. And then, yeah, we should just make a note about the need for another water fountain at Noonan Playground. And the helicopter noise is still an outstanding concern.
Laura, do you know when the next meeting is for CB2?
It's always the fourth Thursday of the month.
Okay,
Oh,
thank you.
That's the
the
committee
full
meeting.
board would be Thursday. Yeah, this is just a committee meeting. It's the Environment, Parks and Recreation Committee. The full board will meet on February 6th. This committee will meet again in a month on, I believe, February 20, what is that? 27th. Yeah, and the full board meets in person. This committee meets virtually.
So the full board is February 3rd, you said?
February 6th.
February
It's
6th.
on the
February
it's on the
6th.
calendar.
Yeah, if you just look up Queens Community
the
Board
6th.
calendar, all the Zoom links and agendas are posted.
Okay, thank you very much.
Here, I
Yeah,
put
no
it in the
problem.
chat.
Thank you. Yeah, I
thank
just
you.
got this link from Julie Wan's office. So that's how I ended up here. Thank you.
Fantastic. Yeah. All right, thank you. All right. So on the helicopter noise, are there any actions we can take? Or additional avenues we can pursue? Does anyone have any suggestions beyond contacting the 108th? I mean, we can get something on letterhead just to document that it's an issue.
I know there's legislation at multiple levels of government to address it. I've heard about this issue for a long time, and I haven't seen a lot of things get done on it. So, I mean, I feel like it's kind of up to our elected leaders to try to take action at this point. So, to the extent that it makes sense to nudge them to do that. I don't know if we've sent something in the past, Laura, but
No, I don't think so. I mean, I would make a motion to tell our electeds to support the Stop the Chop Act if they're not already. I don't see why they wouldn't be. Yeah, I guess we can either just move forward with that now, or we can just do some additional research to send a more carefully written letter.
I would like to understand like which legislation exists before. I don't know the details of all of them, but I just know that they do exist.
All right, yeah, so we'll follow up on that. Okay, do we have any other new business items?
Can we, I'm just sorry, with respect to that same helicopter issue, Jolie, can you get back to us to just let us know what the response is from the police department if you go that route?
Absolutely, I will.
Okay,
Thank
okay.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you for raising this. All right, any other new business items? All right, in that case, we can make a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, great. Have a fantastic evening, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Good night.
Thank you so much.
Well, night.